job. The defense did its job, and then there were not one but two takeaways.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds. You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. That's 888-710-4476. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Or you could check us out on TikTok at the Zach Gelb Show. We are rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Johnny Fanta he is more than a college basketball guy. He is now with NBC Sports. I saw Fanta on my television screen on Saturday for the whiteout with Penn State and Oregon doing some work from the studio. And then last night, I didn't catch him live because I was doing the game for Compass Media Networks between the Cowboys and the Packers. And when he was on, I was on. But he was on Football Night in America last night. So our guy, John Fanta, who is synonymous with college football, is now, or college basketball, is now doing a ton of college football and the NFL. So we're going to have Johnny coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern time today to recap what was a crazy weekend in college football and also get into what we saw last night with the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot to get into from this weekend. Penn State, Oregon, don't worry. You know I will get to that. Alabama, Georgia, don't worry. You know I will get to that. Ole Miss, LSU, as predicted correctly on this show, don't worry. I will get to that. But I'll tell you this. Last week, I did mention the possibility of there being a tie in the NFL. It was not with the game that actually tied, but when I was previewing the Chiefs and the Ravens, I kept on saying one thing particular throughout last week. Both of those teams are 1-2, and barring a tie, one of those teams will fall to 1-3. With that being said, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not the most clairvoyant person in the world. I would have never predicted in a million years that the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys would have ended in a tie last night. And let me be the first one to say it. That was a great game, but it also was a disgrace. And it's a disgrace because no American football game should ever end in a tie. To waste all that time and energy. You know, yesterday, I'm up early at 7 a.m. Eastern time, had a wedding the night before, right? I get my ass to the studio at 9 a.m. Eastern time. I do Sunday morning flight to drive from basically Philadelphia to New York. Made record timing back into the city, an hour and 40 minutes. I get my ass here at 9 a.m. Eastern time, do Sunday morning football from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, then go back home, right? Watch the 1 o'clock games from my apartment. Halftime of the 4 o'clock games, I make my way back into the studio because I got to do the pre-half and post for Cowboys and Packers on Compass Media Networks. And that game is going through an overtime. I know I'm not going to get out of the studio until 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. And I am sitting there and I'm watching this game as it's transpiring and as it's playing out in overtime. And I go, holy bleeping smokes. This is going to end in a tie. And this has been my take for years. In the regular season, even when Donovan McNabb didn't know you could tie, I've never, ever thought an NFL game should end in a tie. People spend too much time preparing for a game. They spend too much time watching a game where it's a disservice to your fans to have a football game. It's a disservice to your coaches, your players, both organizations. It's a disservice to the NFL, right? All in the NFL community to have a game end in a bleeping tie. And I made this joke in the post game. If they left it up to yours truly, I would have declared the Cowboys a winner. Because the fact that that game was even close and the fact that the Packers didn't win the game, it makes me question a lot about Green Bay moving forward for the rest of the season. You look at the Green Bay Packers, save me the crap that they were without their 3 offensive linemen. I understand that's a lot to be working without. And I know the Cowboys were without Tyler Booker, but the Cowboys were without CeeDee freaking Lamb. All right? Also, the Packers go up 13-0 in the game. They got an extra point blocked. It gets returned for 2, and that ignited what was a crazy rest of the first half for the Dallas Cowboys, where somehow the Dallas Cowboys, who were once down 13-0 in the first half, were up 16-13 at halftime. When I did the halftime report, I couldn't believe it. It made no sense to me. And then what happened in the second half, you know what? I haven't thought about this until now. It may actually have been better than what we saw between the Bills and the Ravens. Bills-Ravens was the best game so far of the NFL season. You could also argue maybe Ravens and Lions. That was also highly entertaining. But Bills-Ravens was better than Ravens and Lions. And the Baltimore Ravens had a 99.1% win percentage, chance to win the game, and they blew it in regulation. So that game is probably still better because we had an outcome. We had a win, and then we had a loss, right? There was a winner and a loser. In this game between the Cowboys and the Packers, it felt like the Packers lost, but the Packers didn't lose, and they didn't win, but they tied. But the fireworks that we saw in the second half, thanks to Romeo Doubs, thanks to Josh Jacobs, thanks to Javonte Williams, thanks to George Pickens, thanks to Dak Prescott, that was an awesome, and I mean an awesome fourth quarter. Now you get to overtime, and I'll get back to my rant about how this game ended in a tie in just a second and the change that should happen. But you get to overtime, and I don't know if anyone thought this in the moment, right? I didn't hear it mentioned on the radio. I didn't hear it mentioned on TV. But I was sitting there and I was talking to my producer when the Packers won the toss and they elected to take the ball second. I said to myself, that doesn't make sense to me. And right away my producer said, well, Zach, what about in the Super Bowl? Remember when you had the Chiefs and the 49ers, how many people didn't really know what to do, and the 49ers took the ball first, and then they got annihilated for it afterwards. And I said, there's a difference, though. The clock in the postseason, the clock in that Super Bowl, no one really knew if it mattered or not, but looking back, it didn't matter. The clock last night mattered. It's 10 minutes, and then it's over. So if I was the Packers, I would have taken the ball first. Instead, the Cowboys get the ball first. They move the ball down the field. I thought they were going to score a touchdown. And Micah Parsons, by the way, who was horrible in the game. Micah Parsons, who made a minimal impact in the game, basically was a no-show up until that overtime. Because in overtime, Dak Prescott, they ruled it a sack because he got no yards. But Dak Prescott had what looked like was going to be a rushing touchdown, another one on the night. And Micah Parsons was able to track him down and tackle Dak Prescott, and that prevented the Cowboys from getting in the end zone in overtime. But then on the other end, the Packers come storming down the field. You know they have a fight up against the clock, and they move the chains. And I'm looking at this. I still don't understand what Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love were doing. So on 1st and 10 at Dallas's 12, they run a screen pass with 32 seconds left, and they lost 3 yards. Then after that, they tried to dump the ball off to one of the running backs, and they lost a yard. So then the Packers are hurrying up. Oh, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go. And Jordan Love had an incomplete pass, and he was lucky. How did the hometown scoreboard operator not find a way to just wipe that second away? But he was lucky that there was still a second left. And then Brandon McManus, a college buddy of mine, was called onto the field, and he made a 34-yard field goal, and the game ended in a tie. So I really don't have anything that I could really criticize the Cowboys for today. Like, don't get me wrong. The defense has not been spectacular for Dallas, but that game was a shootout. Dak Prescott was phenomenal in the game. CeeDee Lamb was not playing. George Pickens did his job. Javonte Williams had a nice Wildcat touchdown. Like, you look at what the Cowboys did, I thought they won the game more than the Packers did so, even though it ended in a tie. Like, if I had to declare a winner, if I was judging, right, let's say that was a heavyweight fight, and at the end of it, you got to go to the judges, I would say, okay, it was close, but I'm giving the Cowboys the victory. But the scoreboard ended up in a 40-40 tie at the end of 10 minutes in overtime. On the other side, though, the Green Bay Packers, like, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, even though you didn't lose, it felt like you lost. And you got to be sick to your stomach today because you started off the season, you destroyed the Lions, you then beat the Commanders. The Lions last year were the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. A year before that, they were in the NFC Championship game, and the Commanders were in the NFC Championship game last season. Think about how you started the season. Then you allowed 13 unanswered fourth-quarter points up against the Cleveland frickin' Browns, and then you tied the Dallas Cowboys, who were without CeeDee Lamb. In what was supposed to be the triumphant return of Micah Parsons to Dallas, and your team, after getting a 13-0 lead, couldn't find a way to bury the Dallas Cowboys. And now, I don't know how to evaluate the Packers. I think the Packers are a good team. I'm not going to sit here right now and tell you they're a great team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're an elite team the way that I thought they were after the first 2 games of the season. And this offense got some problems. And there's a huge question about Matt LaFleur and also Jordan Love in a big game. Right? There's a difference in the NFL in being good to very good and then very good to great. We know Matt LaFleur is good. We know Jordan Love is good. But when you make that trade for Micah Parsons, it's not about just being good. It's about being great. It's about winning a Lombardi trophy. And in Green Bay, when you look from Bart Starr, when you look to Brett Favre, when you look to Aaron Rodgers, what are they synonymous for? A Super Bowl championship, a Lombardi trophy, and a Hall of Fame jacket. And Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur are good, but are they great? Are they elite? Are they going to be Hall of Famers? Are they going to win a championship? I don't know. And the first 4 weeks show you that. The first 2 weeks, you see the potential. And then the last 2 weeks, you see, maybe this team is just good and they're not great. So the NFC right now runs through Philadelphia. We know that. You know, the Commanders will see when they get Jaden Daniels back. You look at the NFC North, the Lions, even though they lost to the Packers in week 1, I think the Lions are the team to beat. Chicago now has won their last 2 games. Minnesota, right? Carson Wentz stunk up the joint yesterday in a game that they could have easily won or at least tied at the end of regulation. You look at the South, Tampa Bay, I know they lost to the Eagles, but Tampa Bay is a good team, and they didn't even have Mike Evans yesterday. And then you look at the NFC West, Brock Purdy clearly isn't 100%, and we'll see if he plays this week on a short week, even though he made his return yesterday, but they lost to the Jaguars. And then the Rams, we all know, are a really damn good team. But the Rams, just as easily as they won that game yesterday, they easily could have lost it with Adonai Mitchell just absolutely fumbling that game away, literally out of the end zone. And then he had a holding penalty when Jonathan Taylor put the ball in the end zone. And also, can you get 11 guys on the field where Tutu Atwell has a wide open 80-something yard touchdown? You have 10 guys on the field. So, yeah, the Packers I thought were going to be the biggest contender to the Eagles. Right now, I'm not sitting there and saying that. I'm saying it's a Lions. But the Eagles are still clearly the team to beat in the NFC. So that felt like a loss yesterday for Green Bay, even though it ended up being a tie. And I'll just simply ask this question. I'm not saying for the postseason that you need to really change much because it's a different format in the postseason. But in the regular season, I think that they should adopt college overtime in the NFL. Because I understand that this is an anomaly. I understand ties are rare. But I don't want to see a game ever with a possibility or ever there be a chance that it actually ends in a tie. So I'm not saying that you literally have to start the ball at the 25, right? But some sort of format that at least mirrors what they do in college for the NFL regular season only. And don't tell me, you can't have a different regular season overtime format and postseason format because the NFL has one. But look at hockey. They play a few minutes of overtime, 5 minutes to be exact, right? You go 3-on-3, and then if it's not enough, you go to a shootout. And then in the postseason, it's sudden death. So in the NFL regular season, adopt something similar to college, and then come postseason time, you make it more like real traditional football. Like if I was Roger Goodell, that's the 2 things I would adopt from college. Regular season college overtime in the NFL, and also I would put the kickoffs like how they do in college. You know, isn't that crazy? The NFL, we care so much about player safety. My ass, you care about the money. Let's be real. You said you just selectively choose when you care about player safety. So you got rid of the way that the kickoff always was. You tinkered with it, and then you said, we're not seeing enough returns. We want to bring that element back, so you make some modifications. Now, I get it. The rules are the rules, but look at college. The kickoff is the kickoff, and no one sits there and bitches and complains about player safety. So I think those are 2 things that the NFL could use really from the college game. But the fact that that game ended in a tie last night, it was disgusting. It was repulsive. It makes me sick. And you know what? You know what also makes me sick about it? I know Samter, in some sick, twisted way, really enjoyed that game ended in a tie. Because Samter said something to me a few weeks ago when I'm sitting there and he goes, why don't you like soccer? And I go, because there's too many ties in soccer. And I understand the points and the ramifications and everything. But I'll never forget where USA played England and that dopey goalie, what was his name, Rob Green, the ball went through his legs, and there was so much emotional investment. And then I sat there, I watched the entirety of the game, not as a soccer fan, and then it ended in a tie. And I said, I used all my emotions, and I didn't get an outcome of a win or a loss. I'd rather lose than tie. And I know people are going to say, oh, no, you don't, because of blah, blah, blah. I'd rather have an outcome. I watch a game, I want to see a winner and a loser. And I remember Santer saying to me, well, you can tie in the NFL. It rarely happens. But last night there was a tie. So, Santer, I was thinking about you last night because I knew you were probably sitting there like Dr. Evil with the pinky up, and you were like, mo-ho-ho-ho-ho. I know you were probably laughing last night because you knew that that tie was really going to annoy me as you try to basically just shove soccer down all of our throats. Ugh, disgusting. A tie.
I mean, the first
I don't want to hear what you have to say. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a timeout when we come on back. Give credit to the Chiefs and how much trouble are the Ravens in. We'll give you those answers when we come on back. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
I will get to the Ravens and the Chiefs in just a second, but first we have to still get back to this tie with the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers, as it did feel like the Cowboys won the game, even though it was a tie, and it felt like the Packers lost the game with the fact that it even was a tie. But here is Micah Parsons untying up against his former team in the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm not even gonna lie, I'm pissed off, I'm very disappointed just overall how we performed. I even told Jordan to the side, thank you for having our back today. That's why it's so pivotal to play complimentary football, because today Jordan played like the player he was, and we let him down. We didn't live up to the expectations on defense.
And let's get to Jerry Jones on the tie with the Packers.
They got Micah, and we've got what we've got, and we tied.
Isn't that Jerry just saying basically we won? Like, hey, we got killed for trading Micah Parsons. They have Micah Parsons on a team with Super Bowl expectations. We got Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks. We weren't even able to get those 2 first-round picks yet because they're future first-round picks, and we tied. Yeah, that is a win for the Cowboys last night. It is as close as you could get to winning a game without winning a game. That's what it was. So then I guess some reporter, I've been waiting to hear Jerry's reaction until the show happened. Because I was doing post-game last night, so I wasn't locked into the Jerry Jones press conference or the Jerry Jones media gathering, I guess is what we should say. And I kept on seeing a headline. Now, this wasn't, I'm pretty sure this wasn't Jerry bringing it up. This was a reporter who asked him, is a tie like kissing your sister? All right, let's hear what Jerry Jones had to say when he was asked that question.
Well, I've never kissed my sister, so how's it taste?
I wouldn't know you. Hey.
Yeah, a tie is wrong. A tie is nasty. I think that's actually an awesome answer by Jerry Jones.
How's it taste?
I've never kissed my sister. How does it taste? You didn't like that answer, Santer? I saw you lose your mind there. You put your hands over your face and you looked embarrassed. Yeah, you're really red right now, too.
I mean, saying I never kissed my sister, great. End it there. How's it taste?
He's Jerry Jones.
That's weird. That's weird.
Play me that back one more time. Go ahead.
Well, I've never kissed my sister, so how's it taste?
I wouldn't know you. Hey.
Isn't it funny that Jerry Jones is able to be in his bag last night after tying a game? Could you imagine if they would have won? And it was oh so close to the Cowboys actually winning the game. If the game clock operator just allowed 1 extra second to tick off, who knows what would have happened? Right? Maybe they wouldn't have reversed it. Maybe they would have said, yep, that second is gonzo. Oh, man. They could have just flipped that ball up in the air for a little bit longer before it came slowly falling down. Oh, boy. This would have been a national parade for the Dallas Cowboys, and it would have been a national day of misery for the Green Bay Packers. All righty, let's get to yesterday. What Patrick Mahomes did is a Tom Brady effort yesterday. And what I mean by that is how many times were people ready to pounce, people ready to declare the Patriot dynasty over, and then there's a more talented team that comes walking into your house and you show them who's boss. That's what Patrick Mahomes did yesterday with, count them, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 passing touchdowns. And that game wasn't even close. What a disappointing game that was, by the way. Chiefs and Ravens, you thought it was going to be a big boy fight, and it was one big dud for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm not saying that the Ravens season is over. I don't think it is. But the Ravens, not only are they losing on the field, but they got hit with the injury bug. Matabuke, right before the show started, he was already on injured reserve. Now he's out for the season due to a neck injury. I saw that Ian Rappaport just posted a few moments ago. Roquan Smith was diagnosed with a grade 2 hamstring strain, sources say, and he'll miss a few weeks. Another Baltimore injury to its maligned defense. And oh yeah, by the way, yesterday, Lamar Jackson left the game. And there was a thought online, right? Because when things don't go Lamar's way, he has some bad body language. And I think it's because of how much of a competitor he is. But I've even noticed that at other times this year, and I've commented on it. You look how early on he was frustrated up against the Lions. And then yesterday he was clearly frustrated, but there was a shot of him going to the sideline. And some people were saying, oh, did he quit on the team? Did he just take himself out of the game? Was he done with the game? John Harbaugh basically dismissed all that today in his press conference. It was just happened a few moments ago, but Sarah Ellison put out the quote. John Harbaugh was asked if Lamar Jackson hamstring would have gone back in the game if the score was closer. Quote, no, there was no way he was going back in the game. The injury precluded it. There was no way he could go back in the game. I know Lamar, and the way I know Lamar, if he could have gone in the game, he would have been in the game. That's how Lamar is. I can assure you he would not have been able to go back in the game under any circumstance. So I'm going to take John Harbaugh for his word. I am going to take Lamar Jackson for his character. But that's a game just yesterday with the Baltimore Ravens where it's one thing to lose, and then it's also one thing to get injured. But that game kind of highlights the problems that the Ravens have. Because you saw them fumble away a game up against the Buffalo Bills. Alrighty, bad beat, but sometimes that happens in the course of a season, right? In the ebbs and flows of a season. Then they beat the snot out of the Cleveland Browns, but they're the Cleveland Browns. Well, hey, if you're a Green Bay Packer fan, you may be saying, no, Cleveland's better than what you think. But the Ravens beat the snot out of the Cleveland Browns. Then after that, they had a chance in a game that was back and forth at times, and then Detroit took control, but Detroit wasn't putting them away. They had a chance to go tie the game or win the game. Derrick Henry put the ball on the turf, and eventually you keep on giving Jared Goff a second, a third, a fourth opportunity. He was eventually on a 4th and 2, going to find Amon-Ra St. Brown down the right sideline, and boom, that game was over. But up against Kansas City, you're a 1-2 football team. You're expected to win that game, even though you're on the road. Kansas City has had zero life this season. That's a football team that heading into yesterday, their only win was up against Russell Wilson and the stinking Giants at the time. And I know the Giants yesterday, right? They finally listened to Zach Gelb. You play Jackson Dart. I know that you lost Malik Neighbors for the season. But look, there was actually some life on that field. There was actually some energy on that field. And you beat what is a very good Chargers team. But you look at that Kansas City squad, there was no, outside of the fact that it's just Reed and Mahomes, there was no tangible reason and no football reason to actually think that the Chiefs were going to win that game yesterday. With how just ugly and insipid and just dull that they've been on the offensive side of the ball. And the Ravens, even when they lose, they put up a ton of points, and it was just a Derrick Henry fumbling problem. But the Chiefs not only beat the Ravens, they dominated them yesterday. Dominated them. So you look back at that one, that is, I think, a turning point for Kansas City. And then you look at it from the Baltimore Ravens side, I would think that they'll beat the Texans this weekend. But if Lamar doesn't play, am I trusting Cooper Rush, who threw the ball away on 4th down in that game? Am I expecting Cooper Rush, who's a solid backup quarterback, to defeat the Texans, even with the Texans' offensive line problems? No. So the next 2 weeks for them, for the Baltimore Ravens, you have to prevent the ship from sinking. Because if you're 1-5, I don't care how much talent you have, and I don't care if you eventually get healthy, You start the year 1-5, I'm not going to believe in you. But they need to split the next 2 weeks. They play the Texans, and then they play the Rams. They need to head into their bye week at worst 2-4. If they head into their bye week at 2-4, and you come out of that bye week with Chicago, then a short week at Miami, then at Minnesota, at Cleveland, the Jets, and Cincinnati, that's when you could get right. In that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game stretch, that is where you could get right and start to make up ground. But if you're anything worse than 2-4, I just don't know how you're going to get it together. So it's not that the Ravens are dead, but the ship is starting to sink, and you got to find a way to patch it up to make sure that you could sail for a little bit before then you figure out how you're going to get the thing back to shore. Now, on the other side for Kansas City, isn't it crazy how one game makes a difference? Here they are, right? They're 2-2. Yesterday, the Raiders lose to the Bears, sorry, Stu, on a blocked field goal. And by the way, you want to know how bullcrap this is? On our pick segment, I had the Bears plus 2.5 on this show. So, plus 1.5. So I won. I do picks with Pat Boyle in a competition. When I record that segment on Thursday. On Thursday night, the line was Bears minus 1.5. It was a 1-point victory. So I didn't win the Bears pick on Thursday, but since the line flipped on Friday, I won it on this show. Now, no offense, as much as this show is my priority, obviously, it's a Zach Gelb Show, I would rather win the pick competition on the Pat Boyle Show because I am going head-to-head with Pat Boyle, where in our format, we just bring on friends, right, and guests, and we just do a picks competition that way. But there is dinner on the line with Pat Boyle, and also, Pat's been a full-time host here for about like a second. I can't let that little amateur come on in on my turf, where I am the longest consecutive tenure host at the network. And I got to be careful there. Yeah, no, that's true. People are going to say Bill Ryder. Bill left for a little bit. Reset the time clock. So,
It's like being a manager of a New York team.
Yeah. So I just got to protect my turf. And, hey, Pat Boyle is a part of the family. But it's like when you introduce someone to the family that's marrying into the family. They're part of the family. You love them, but you got to go through a little hazing period. Now, it's not going to be like a Prince of Mukamara hazing period, but it's a little bit of a hazing period. But anyway, you look at the Chiefs, how their season just completely changed with the Raiders. Who cares? The Raiders aren't going to win the division anyway, but they lose. We'll see what happens with the Bears tonight. The Broncos tonight. But then the Chargers you already lost to, they lose a game to the Giants yesterday. So they're 3-1, but the Chargers do have a tiebreaker. Now you fall to 2-2 with the Jaguars on Monday. And the Jaguars, I know that they are 3-1, but I don't think that the Chiefs are afraid of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they're probably going to be 3-2 going into that Lions game. Patrick Mahomes starts to play well. The offense starts to get going. The Ravens are banged up. The Ravens were lifeless on offense. Ravens defense has a lot of problems. Harbaugh right now can't win a big game. And yesterday we thought that this was going to turn the Ravens season around. Well, it actually turned the Kansas City Chiefs season around. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Francois and Dallas will get you on the other side. Also, when we come on back, oops, Penn State did it again. Oh, baby. And how about Alabama just dominating Kirby Smart? And Kirby Smart said something after the game that I did not like. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Advantage Gold. Before kickoff, get help securing your financial future with Advantage Gold. Text GOLD to 85545 now and request your free gold investment kit, or go to AdvantageGold.com for terms. Message and data rates may apply. Week 4 of the NFL season concludes with 2 games in the Monday Night Spotlight. It starts with the 0-3 Jets in Miami to face the Dolphins, who are also 0-3. New York quarterback Justin Fields returns from a concussion. The other matchup includes the Bengals and Broncos in Denver, Seattle. I make that Cincinnati coming off its worst loss in franchise history, getting blown out in its first game without Joe Burrow. Jake Browning had a rough debut, but Zach Taylor is confident tonight will be different.
Everybody's got to be able to do their job to make his job as easy as possible. Got to do a great job protecting the football. That's his number one priority. He's done a great job already with the plan. He's got a couple days head start, so I think he's in a really good place there. Really good communication with him, so I feel like we're in a great spot right now.
The Giants' Malik Neighbors done for the season with a torn ACL. Brock Purdy is in jeopardy of not playing next week after developing soreness in his toe. Marlon Humphrey will reportedly miss a couple of weeks with a calf injury. And the San Francisco Giants fired manager Bob Melvin. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Why are we playing this crap? Is that the Penn State fight song still?
It is.
What a bunch of chokers. Oh my God. Again, Penn State. You know what's funny about Penn State? They had the whiteout crowd, right? Oh, that vaunted environment. Oh, that raucous environment. 110,000 of you going nuts. Oh, you finally got the nighttime whiteout crowd. Ooh, it was going to make such a difference. Not. Oh, my God. I sound like Borat. Pause not. Jeez Louise. All I heard from Penn State fans, oh, we need a nighttime whiteout. That's how we'll win a big game. That's how we'll get the job done. Survey says. So I'm at this wedding on Saturday. One of my good friends is getting married. And it was a beautiful ceremony in Jersey. And his brother, who's like 6 or 7 years younger, went to Penn State. And we're talking about the game. And he goes, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to keep me updated. So, right, we're all on the dance floor. Yeah, I'm watching the game. I got the Peacock app up. And I'm on the dance floor watching. And I see it's like 17-3. And I said to him, don't worry. I go, Penn State once again isn't showing up for the big moment, isn't showing up for the game. And he just looked at me and he goes, so typical of James Franklin and Drew Aller. But then here's the best part. Because you knew going in, right, James Franklin's not a big game coach. And you also knew going in, if you pay attention, that Drew Aller is overrated. But this is supposed to be the year, right? Even though you had 2 Fugazi wins in the college football playoff last year and then you lost to Notre Dame because your quarterback dribbled down his leg, this was supposed to be the year you got DDS on the offensive side of the ball, Allen and Singleton are back, improved wide receiver room, a third starting year for Drew Aller, college football. Oh, this is supposed to be the year, right? And you had that whiteout nighttime crowd. And if, you know what, it wouldn't have been as enjoyable if it was just 17-3 and Oregon, quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth, just annihilated. That wouldn't have been that enjoyable if I'm just being honest. But then you slowly come back. And in the fourth quarter, potential means you haven't done it yet. And the potential that people have been telling me about, the Hickeys of the world, my buddy Barry, right? All you fools in Happy Valley that keep on telling me, Drew Aller's this, Drew Aller's that. He started to be that quarterback in the fourth quarter. And you know what? The wedding ended. I get back to my hotel room at the hotel as an after party in the lobby. And I go, you know what? I'm going to stay in my hotel room. Fourth quarter, Alabama, Georgia. Fourth quarter, you got Penn State going up against Oregon. And I said to myself, I'm going to be a little bit late. I'm going to be late to the after party. It's all right. I'll be fashionably late. No worries. And I'm watching the fourth quarter, and I'm sitting there. I had a few whiskey gingers, obviously, at the wedding, and I'm going, oh, boy. I go, Penn State's actually going to do it. Oh, my God, they tied up the game. Oh, it goes into overtime. Back and forth in overtime. Penn State scores. Oregon answers. Then Oregon gets the ball back. Boom, they put the ball in the end zone on the first play in the second overtime. They missed the extra point, the 2-point conversion. You got to go for it. That's the rules. They don't get it. It gets picked off. And I'm sitting there on my couch, and I'm going, you know what? Zach Gelb, who never believes in Penn State. Zach Gelb, who picked Oregon. I actually think Penn State's going to put the ball in the end zone and get the 2-point conversion and win the game. And then Aller, back to pass. Oh, he's intercepted! And say me this nonsense, but Zach, you got to give him credit for the way that he played in the fourth quarter. Oh, James Franklin got them to respond. If this was a team of a bunch of freshmen, sure. If this was James Franklin year 1 or year 2, sure. James Franklin, this is who he is. He doesn't win big games. His team came out as flat as a bottle of soda that was out of a fridge for 15 years. That is how flat Penn State was. So just because they were so flat that they actually played one good quarter, and then his quarterback, who is so overrated, he's fine, he's good, he's not a big game quarterback, and everyone tries to make you believe in Happy Valley with that Colt that he's the second coming of you-know-who, and he's never been that guy. You know, what would have been his moments of praise? Oh, he had a great second half and a tremendous comeback up against USC on the road last year. Oh, you know, at least they didn't get blown out in the Big Ten championship game up against Oregon. He threw away a spot in the national championship game when they should have beat Notre Dame in the semifinals. And then the other night, he's making a comeback after they didn't show up in the first 3 quarters. He is being resilient. He's being tough. He's about to show you, I'm different. I'm him. And then in overtime, picked off. And you know what? I actually felt bad for him afterwards. Because James Franklin, I've seen the sad walk enough. Right? When he walks to the tunnel with his family, and he basically uses his family as a shield. So I've seen that enough with James Franklin. Drew Aller is bitching at the camera people, don't take photographs of me. Afterwards in the post-game press conference, it looked like he got hit by a bus, and he had no clue what the heck just happened. So I actually felt bad for Drew Aller. I did. I have a heart. I know it may not seem that way for the last 5 minutes, but I have a heart. And I felt bad for Drew Aller. But what a win for our guy, Dan Lanning. And you know what? Dan Lanning still has to win a national championship. But college football right now is faceless. And if the Oregon Ducks win a national championship, Dan Lanning is the perfect guy to be the next face of college football. He's entertaining. He's passionate. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's media friendly. And oh yeah, by the way, I said this to him first time I interviewed him. And I said, Coach, it's going to sound like I'm crazy, and it's going to sound like I'm dissing you because I'm calling you a psycho. But you are a football psycho. When you get on that sideline, when you get in front of your team, something overtakes your body, and you just go to a different place, and you see how much you love doing this. And how about that scream that he let out at the end of the game? Now, when he's up 17-3, and he basically does the throat slash and says that this game's over, and Coach, your team took a foot off the gas. But you redeemed yourself. And you redeemed yourself because James Franklin and Drew Aller are losers. They are losers. Yeah, they'll go win their 9-10 games. Oh, yeah, we're better than everyone. Oh, yeah, we're great. Teams will love to beat us. You win 9 or 10 meaningless games, and then when you play the big dogs, you fail. You fail over and over and over again. And let me tell you, it's getting old. It's getting old. On Wednesday, Hickey's going to trot his sorry ass into the studio, and we're going to abuse him verbally. I don't like doing it anymore. You know, I may support Ryan Hickey. I may be there to kind of help him through this tough week that it was for him. We have a bond. Our Mets suck, right? They're terrible. His Colts yesterday, another guy that he hexed, Adonai Mitchell, he said was going to be great. Geez, how did that work out? And then Penn State. What did Hickey said on the show last week? Penn State is the better coach team. And he also said Drew Aller wasn't going to be the reason they lost the game. How did that work out? And then he picked Penn State by 10 points. What a dummy. Oh, what a dummy. But let's hear one of the biggest frauds in college football, James Franklin, on facing backlash in his media session after the game.
Whether it's Greg Kincaid or Chris or other people will send me cut-ups or examples of how maybe other coaches and other people handle some of these questions. And I think that perspective is good. Some of the way those things are handled at other places, I don't think would go over very well here. If I got up in a press conference and said some things that I've seen other people say, I don't think that would go over very well. So I try to be as respectful as I can. I try to answer the tough questions that you guys give. It's not always easy to do. I wouldn't say I enjoy this whatsoever. But I also understand you guys got a job to do, and these tough questions are going to come. I will also say that I'm not going to allow one loss to define our season, and I'm not going to allow a few losses to define my career and what we have done here at Penn State, because although I don't think a lot of people spend a ton of time on what we have done over our 12 years here, and I get it. Nobody wants to hear this right now. There's a ton of positives.
This guy, that answer is why I can't stand him. When he loses, he bloviates, he talks about all these other programs. You can't win a big game. It defines you. And as much as that answer annoyed me, Kirby Smart annoyed me even more. He's now 1-7 up against Alabama, and this is what he had to say on his poor record up against the Crimson Tide.
I mean, what's everybody else's record against them? You got it?
Stop!
I don't either. Like I don't lose sleep over that, because those games have been like championship caliber games, right? And even when we play in the regular season, they've been. I just saw 25 scouts out there. They're all there to watch these teams play. So that's not going to affect me. Like I'm going to be happy and just go lucky if our team comes back and plays well. That's what I worry about. But that's just, we got to get better. And next year it won't have anything to do with this year.
Coach, you're the coach at Georgia. You're supposed to be the next Alabama. What are you talking about? That is amateur hour by arguably the best coach in the country in Kirby Smart. That is amateur hour. And that fourth down decision to go for it when you're down by 3, that's when it felt like the game. You could have easily won that game in the second half, and you didn't do so. Oh, Alabama, even after that big lead that they got out to at halftime, they were on the ropes. Ty Simpson played well. Not as bad as what people thought he was up against Florida State. But, geez, Coach, you had them. You had them. And your team didn't show up in the fourth quarter. So don't downplay the 1-7 record up against Alabama. John Fanta will join us next. Francois, Big Friendly, get you in hour number 2. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You know, some weeks you know they're going to be a great weekend of college football. Other weeks you don't. You knew this one was going to be spectacular. But Friday night, that was the unexpected part. Florida State losing to Virginia 46-38 in double overtime. And by the way, I don't know how the Florida State wide receiver is still alive. As that was broken up at the end of the game, I've never seen a field storming like that. The game immediately ended, the ball was incomplete, and then there's thousands and thousands and thousands of fans on the field right away. And also late Friday night, Samter Sun Devils, they had a crazy comeback, and they secure a victory and kind of make up for everything that happened with Mississippi State a few weeks ago. And Arizona State has been crazy. Look at the Baylor game, you look at the TCU game, and you look at the Mississippi State game. Those have been some awesome games. But then really on Saturday night, and I know during the day Saturday, LSU is what LSU we thought they were going in. Offensive problems. Ole Miss, I thought they were ready to win that game. That was my favorite game of the weekend in terms of betting, as I had the Rebels by 1.5 in that one. But Saturday, it was all about the nightcap. And Oregon, Penn State, it lived up to the hype. And Alabama, Georgia lived up to the hype as well. And how about our guy, John Fanta? Right? We always talk to John Fanta about college basketball. Well, John Fanta is also a football guy. Yeah, we all see his rants about the Cleveland Browns, which we loved last year. But Johnny Fanta is now working for NBC Sports, and he was a part of the Peacock coverage, obviously, on Saturday night with Penn State and Oregon in that classic. And then on Sunday, he's on Football Night in America. Our guy, John Fanta, is with us right now to talk some football. Fanta, I love that now we could talk football with you.
I love that we could talk football too, Zach Gelb, and it's been a fun start to the football season because you think about it, and I appreciate you guys having me, and I always love talking with you about anything, but this could be fun. You know, college football right now, as chaotic as the off-season environments are in college sports, is as chaotic as they are on the field, and it's for all the right reasons on the field. I mean, right now, you could make a case for a number of teams that could win the national championship in college football. And we'll get to that, I'm sure, in a moment, because I'll give you my pick right now. But in the National Football League, you think you've got things figured out with Green Bay, and then what do? They go to Dallas, and their defense, which had been fantastic, was terrible on Sunday night. And by the same token, look at the Chargers. You know, the Chargers start undefeated. They look the part of a real contender, of a team that you actually can buy. Think again, and they lay an egg at MetLife, albeit against a desperate Giants team. But still, I think it's been a really fun start. And as you know, now October, you kick into October and you got this much wide open. There's some knowns, more knowns in the NFL than college. But right now in college football, holy cow, this sport is extremely fun and open.
And that's the thing. I went into this season with college, and I'm really strict using the word great. Like I'll say, give me a great team. People will give me 10. I don't do that. Like Super Bowl contenders, I have 3 in the AFC, 3 in the NFC always. I don't know if there's a great team the last 2 years in college football. And I thought for sure going to this college football playoff format, expanding to 12, that it would water down the regular season. There's no question it gives teams landing spots. Like you lose a game, you're not dead. You could even lose 2 games. You just can't lose 3. But the college football regular season was highly entertaining last year. And we're not even technically in October yet. And look how many classic games we've already had this year, John.
I think you bring up a great point there. Let's go with it in this direction. You know, you see the TV selections, and I'm with the NBC crew on Saturdays, and we're looking at the Big Ten, and we're really excited because we're going to have Michigan and USC a week from Saturday. Now look, both those teams, USC would say they should have won at Illinois. The defense could not hang together. They couldn't hold it together. Now, they came back, but, Zach, I thought when they took the lead that they were going to find a way to seal that game up. They did not. But the beauty of college football today is USC's still alive. You know, they win a game like that over Michigan. They go to South Bend and win. Like USC and Notre Dame, October 18th, folks might be thinking, oh, okay, well, it's not Penn State, Oregon. I would argue the contrary. It's going to be a playoff game for Notre Dame. If they lose the game, they're eliminated. If they win the game, all that talk is going to be building. So I like the fact that an 18 to 23-year-old kid can have a bad day and still be alive for the playoffs. Like I think that's refreshing. What I would say to college football stakeholders is you don't need more than this. You do not need more than the teams that you've got. If you want to go to 16, all right. But then at that point, to me, don't water it down. You go to 24, 28, 32. These proposals, Zach, where like an Ohio State just has to kind of show up to make the playoff. I'm not a fan of that. The games need to matter in the regular season, and I would argue they matter more now than they did. These people who say that the regular season doesn't matter as much, no, I would say it's better for the sport. I think it's better for the networks. And, I know people were whining on Saturday night about how the games were happening at the same time, Alabama, Georgia, and Penn State, Oregon. Here's what I would say back to that. Who's going to complain about great games? Those were two, and were they the best played games? Penn State, the team in the fourth quarter versus the team in the first three quarters, but they were close games, they were dramatic games, and they were dramatic finishes. And I think that is really productive for the sport, where you don't just single out one or two. You've got a number of different storylines, a number of different quarterbacks, and a number of different coaches. The pressure is still on these coaches every single week. Is there anybody this past weekend who helped themselves more than Kalen DeBoer?
It's a great question, and here's how I would respond to it, John Fanta. Temporarily, yes. And I'm a huge fan of DeBoer. But and this is what I said going into the game. Even if he wins, people in Alabama, right, Tuscaloosa, they're going to have a sigh of relief, right? You rather win than you lose up against Georgia, who now Kirby Smart's 1-7 up against Alabama, and DeBoer's beat them the last 2 years. But it's funny to me how the schedule plays out, where last year was the same time, Alabama, Georgia at the end of September, and then it was the Vanderbilt debacle. Well, next week it's Vanderbilt again for Alabama. So I'm just curious with DeBoer. He needed that win. He got the win after what happened with Florida State. Didn't lose. They beat Georgia. But now it's to show the difference. How are you going to handle it the rest of the way? Because there's no coach in the country that needs to make the college football playoff more this year than Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's no question about that. He's got to make the college football playoff. I would say this, too. It's important that Penn State doesn't allow Saturday's loss to break their confidence factor. I think everybody expects them to be in the playoff, but Zach, you still got to get there. And the Big Ten has gotten deeper here. The Big Ten, Illinois, they're not as bad as the 53-point loss to Indiana. How about Curt Cignetti? With what he lost, to now come back and have one of the Heisman favorites in Fernando Mendoza, and to have a team that they're undefeated, and they have figured out ways to get it done. On Saturday, they got tested by Kirk Ferentz on the road at Iowa. We had that game on Peacock, so I was able to listen into that natural sound feed. Zach, Iowa City was absolutely roaring during that game. That was a really hard game for Indiana, coming off the statement win over Illinois. So right now in college football, there's a number of different storylines. To me, the best team in the country today is Oregon. The best team in the country is Oregon. That team, Dante Moore has an it factor about him. He's helping his stock a ton. That defense is nasty. They swarm the ball. And Dan Lanning, his team plays with the personality that he coaches with. The Ducks finding a way. A lot of teams, they start to unravel on the road in a marquee game, and they just lose that game. I love the response from Oregon. They got a real home field advantage. They're going to have Indiana in Eugene in 2 weeks. They are positioned to be right there at the end and to potentially get that first national championship.
Yeah, and it's championship or bust. 2 years ago, right, they're in the Pac-12. They lost to Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. They lost to Washington twice that season. But Lanning was just getting his feet wet last year. How are they going to transition in the Big Ten? Well, they were undefeated in the regular season. They won the Big Ten championship. And then you lose to Ohio State. It wasn't your night. Maybe it was some rust with the 30-day layoff. I don't think anyone was beating Ohio State in that game with the way that they were playing. But, John, we talk about how college football is open. There's no more Nick Saban. And Kirby Smart and Georgia the last 2 years, they're not looking like they're going to be the Alabama, right? That next dominant team that was going to go win 6 or 7 national championships. So there's no face right now in college football. If Dan Lanning gets a championship, I think he becomes the face of college football, because there's some coaches that could win and they're just not fit for like Kirby Smart. He wins, but I don't think he's the face of college football. Lanning has the personality. I mean this in a positive way. And I told this to him once. He's a football psycho when he gets on that sideline. You saw the scream after the game. And Lanning's a guy that he's not afraid to give his opinion, and he's extremely media friendly. If the Ducks win a championship, obviously it's monumental for that university. But for Dan Lanning, he would then become the face of the sport.
He would. And they've got all the resources there with Phil Knight and with Nike. They've got the setup now in the Big Ten, where once they get a kid out there, Now I think they're even more open to more kids because you could say, hey, we're going to travel to the East Coast. We're going to travel to the Midwest. I look at that as a plus. You're not stuck in the corner of the country. You're playing at 10:30 at night all the time. No, they're getting marquee broadcast slots. Their brand speaks for itself, and they've got this flashiness, this personality about them. But the other thing that stands out is Dante Moore has come in. And in a year right now where, let's face it, Gunnar Stockton on Saturday night threw for 130 yards in the entire game. Julian Sayin, he has not been the reason that Ohio State has rolled to this strong start. Their defense has been the reason, and Jeremiah Smith has been the reason. It's interesting because at the top of the country, we entered the season and we said Sayin, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, these guys are going to be, they could be big time. Well, Klubnik is an afterthought now. Nussmeier has not looked particularly good. And Ole Miss, what Chambliss and Ole Miss did
He's awesome.
on Saturday. And by the way, there's another face. Like, I am all in on the Lane Kiffin hype machine. And if you look at Ole Miss's schedule, now I know the SEC's hard, but I'm looking at this. I looked at this on Saturday, and I think that there's a real path for them when you look at what they've got. They've got Washington State next. Then, Zach, what a mammoth game. You want to talk about the regular season still meaning something in this 12-team playoff setup. Then Ole Miss is going to go to Georgia. And Ole Miss, they could have a loss to Georgia, still make the playoff. If you're Georgia, you're at home. The amount of pressure that's going to be on Kirby that game, where, frankly, Ole Miss has had the better offense. And Georgia's defense has really struggled. So Lane Kiffin, he's got Georgia on October 18th. He's got Oklahoma on October 25th. Obviously, the Sooners and John Mateer, that situation, you feel for them because I would have loved to keep seeing Mateer healthy and good, and because I thought that was a really fascinating storyline to this. But, yeah, I just think college football is rich with buzz. And, Virginia, who would have thought Virginia would knock off Florida State Friday night? But, is Florida State dead? No. They own a win over Alabama. But guess who they've got this week?
Miami.
They've got Miami.
Wouldn't that be so? I talked to one of my friends today, he's a Miami fan, and he said, I hate that Florida State lost last week because it would be so college football for Florida State to come on back and then upset Miami this week because no one thinks that they're going to do so coming up this weekend.
Yeah, the ACC is deeper, right? It would appear that it's deeper. It has better teams. I think Brent Key and Georgia Tech are the sleeper in all of this. They could be the sleeper playoff team a la Arizona State, SMU last year. They've got that makeup, and Haynes King is a stud. That kid can really make things happen. But it's almost like the ACC, by being deeper with some better teams, there's some cannibalization happening now. How is that all going to shake out with this league? And my question in the ACC is there going to be a team not in the conference title game that's good enough to be sitting at home during that title game to say, we still think that we're going to find our way in? We will see. We don't know that. But, Zach, I think it goes back to the original point. By having more access, it makes Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, Arizona State and the loaded Big 12, Texas Tech, who appears to be improved. They went out and spent the money. It also shows, if you're at Texas Tech and you sit down in your athletic offices and you say, we're going to spend, we're going to get after it, we're going to recruit, and we can make it happen. You don't have to be the blue blood name to win in college football and make that playoff. And it also puts pressure on, the Kirby Smarts and Dabo Sweeneys of the world have to be looking in the mirror sometimes right now and saying, how do I figure all this out when the playing field has been leveled to a degree?
Let me just get you back to Penn State, and then we'll wrap up with John Fanta. Does a great job, NBC Sports. You can see him throughout the season. College football also was on Football Night in America last night. You look at Penn State. Well, I know Franklin can't win a big game. Drew Aller, people are trying to tell me he's something that he's not. He's a fine quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He just isn't a big game quarterback, and now it's year 3 of him as a starter. But what makes that one so frustrating if you're a Penn State fan, you come out flat. Aller then comes alive in the 4th, but Aller threw the game away last year up against Notre Dame, and then it happened again in overtime with the interception up against Oregon. And I'm curious how he's going to mentally bounce back, because after the game, he just had a blank stare where he looked like he didn't know what hit him. And no one's going to care if Penn State beats UCLA, Northwestern, Iowa, Michigan State, Nebraska, Rutgers. No offense to those teams. They have a stretch where they play Ohio State and Indiana. And if they lose Ohio State and then beat Indiana, people aren't going to be freaking out that, Penn State finally got a big win up against Indiana. That Ohio State game is going to be their season. Now, they can still make the playoffs if they lose that. But you know how this works. For Penn State, we know they're good. It was about being great this year, and they showed they weren't ready to be great up against Oregon.
And, oh, by the way, the week before the Ohio State game, they have the worst trap game situation in the Big Ten, which is at Iowa. And I'm telling you right now, Iowa is going to continue to sneak up on people because they actually have an offense that can function. Now, we'll see about Gronowski, who went out of Saturday's game. But, look, with Penn State, when they get into overtime and they ran, 2 plays to score a touchdown, they ran the ball on both plays. Then we go into double overtime, and when the moment that Penn State picked off the conversion attempt, I thought to myself, Penn State's going to win this football game. Like, that was huge for them. They're going to score, right? Zach, they had the edge. They had worn Oregon's defensive line down, and what do? They call a pass play that frankly went right into coverage, and that was exactly what Oregon wanted to see. Oregon did not want to have to defend the run because Penn State, a lot of people were like, well, their running backs didn't do a whole lot on Saturday. If you watch that game as the game went on, Nick Singleton and Kadron Allen were running hard and running at Oregon's defensive line. They weren't always getting 7 or 8 yards, but the 3 or 4 yards they were getting, they were bringing the punch. And then you've got the edge. They went away from that on that play call. And, you do feel bad for Aller. And I know a lot of people say, well, look what he's probably making now in college. Why do you feel bad for him? Because, Zach, clearly, this is not just a Drew Aller problem. This has been happening at Penn State now for a long time, several years. And there's really a dilemma. Like, I think it's probably the program with the biggest dilemma in college football that's a top-tier program. Because they're always going to be at the table. But at what point do you get tired of just sitting at it and knowing that you're farther away from not sitting at it than you are sitting at the head chair?
You know what it reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like the last 7-8 years, they're good. They're in the playoff. But they don't win the big game when it matters. And I know Tomlin has won a Super Bowl. Franklin has won a national championship. But how many Steelers fans look there and say, what are we going to do with Tomlin, right? If we get rid of him, it could get ugly, but we know we're not going to win another championship with him. That's the same thing with Franklin. You get rid of him, it could get ugly, but you're not winning a championship with him right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, the state of Pennsylvania, because you could argue that for a period of time, yeah. But the Sixers were kind of at the table, but were you ever taking them seriously as a title contender? The answer is no. So I think that's just it is you're like stuck in the best level of purgatory that you could be in because Franklin, look, I know Franklin is this figure that a lot of people like have grown to, it's not like he's got this great street cred nationally.
I can't stand him.
Okay. Well, there you go. Your feelings on him right there. And Aller throws that pick on Saturday. I think the emotions, the shots that you saw, it was like, yeah, this is what we do. Like that, the moment that begins to sink in your locker room, and I'm not saying it will, because I want to see how these kids respond. I mean, they got gift wrapped a nice schedule here with UCLA and Northwestern and Iowa coming up here. I mean, they're in position to now recover and then be ready for their next big game, which is against Ohio State. But you do say to yourself, Zach, when is Penn State going to come out in the game? When are they going to come out in the game? And when are they going to be the aggressor? When are they going to go up against a marquee team, take an early lead, and continue to accelerate? When the formula becomes predictable to a point that when you lose a game like that, it's like, yeah, it's not surprising. That's when you wonder, do we have to break this down at some point to get to where we ultimately want to go? And in today's era of college athletics, the people who are supplying the money to these programs and these teams, they want to win a national championship. They don't just want to be hanging around.
John Fanta does a great job for NBC Sports. You obviously know him a ton with college basketball, but it's great to talk some football with Johnny Fanta, whether it's college or the NFL. John, good luck and congratulations on the new venture. We really appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Zach. Anytime. Appreciate you, my friend.
There you go. The great John Fanta with us. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. A.J. Brown is at it again. Callahan, man, those are some more words afterwards. And also, we also thought we were going to see an actual war between Robert Saleh and Liam Cohen. We'll get all of that when we come on back in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Let's go to Big Friendly. The friendliest caller in the history of the Infinity Sports Network is Big Friendly, and he's in California. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Big Friendly first up on the Zach Gelb Show on this Monday. Big Friendly, what's shaking, my man?
Good afternoon, Zachary Dudon. Thank you for taking my call.
You got it. What do you got cooking today, my man?
I was just, you know what, man, so I'm going to talk to you like you were my shrink. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Yesterday, the Rams did not
You know
beat
what,
the
Big
Colts.
Friendly? Sit down on a couch. I want you to be comfortable. Put the feet up, right? This is a shrink's office, so I just want to make sure that you're comfortable and you're in a good environment, all right?
Thank you. I'm comfortable with my feet. Can I take my shoes off? My feet don't stink. Got new shoes on, so you know.
You know what? If it was somebody else, I may say no. For you, Big Friendly, you could take your shoes off. We're a Rex Ryan zone here sometimes.
Okay, so yesterday, the Rams did not beat the Colts. The Colts beat themselves.
I agree.
I'm. Go ahead.
I agree with you.
I'm trying to understand. We have this offense, but why we can't get out of the boxes. And I have to eat a plate of crow on Danny Loose Change because he did play pretty well. He played a lot better than I expected, and I have to give him respect. So I'm just trying to – can you kind of explain to me what do you see the Rams' offensive issues they're having?
I think the offense right now is Puka Nacua. That's the offense to me. With that being said, sometimes in the course of an NFL season, especially when it's this early and how the month of not only September but also October, it feels like there's a lot of preseason quality. You sometimes win a game that you're not supposed to win. And if Adonai Mitchell didn't exist and if the Colts maybe put 11 guys on the field at the end of the game, maybe you don't win the game. But
I agree.
My uncle used to tell me this, Big Friendly. Sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good. And yesterday, you guys were lucky to get the win, but you got the win. So that's what matters. I do think that, you saw Adams, right, come alive a little bit yesterday. You got Puka Nacua. Kyron Williams is a good back in this league. Matthew Stafford, there was a lot of concerns with the back. I'm not really that concerned with the Rams, and I know they have a short week up against the Niners. We'll see if Brock Purdy's going to play. These next 2 weeks, though, we're going to see how good the Rams could be because Thursday night, it's a short week. It's always up against a divisional opponent. Those games are usually always good. And then the following week, you got the Ravens, who right now they're on life support. But the Ravens still have a ton of talent.
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be my last question for Let Me Go. When they said that Adams was having a hamstring injury, I didn't see him too much. I had a feeling like they were trying to save him for Thursday. What's your opinion on that? Thank you for taking my call, Zach.
Yeah.
You're the man.
You got it, Big Friendly. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. I don't know if they were trying to save him for Thursday or not. I think for a guy like Devontae Adams, you know that you're going to need him for the end of the season. So, he's someone that's 32 years old, will turn 33 at some point in December. I just think you got to make sure he gets through the season. That's the bottom line with Devontae Adams. If he needs a breather here or there, you give him a breather here or there. And if you need an off day or two during the week, give him an off day during the week. I'm not concerned, though, about the Rams. I really am not. We know what the defense is. They're 3-1. Their one loss came to the Eagles, a game that they were up 26-7, and they just blew it. And if they could have just made that kick at the end, they would have won the game anyway after almost blowing it. So I don't really have big concerns for the Rams. I think the Rams will be a playoff team. I think the Rams will definitely win a playoff game. But it's when you get back to that divisional round, can you find a way to get the job done in the final minutes, because you failed to do so last year on the snow, on the road, in the snow on the road in Philadelphia. And if you'd have won that game, maybe you're having another championship. So the Colts are better than what people think. You beat them yesterday. Was it pretty? No, but football isn't always pretty. Delta 9 Brian is on the line from North Carolina. I actually saw Brian over the summer, and he came up to me with the wing, and he tried blue cheese for the first time. And it was a lovely sight to see. And he said to me, I'm still a ranch guy, but I could see why you like this blue cheese. And Delta 9 Brian has an idea for the NFL kickoff strategy. What do you got cooking up today, Bri?
Well, I don't know if it's an idea, but I was just curious, because I'll be honest, I didn't listen to the first hour of your show. Mm-hmm. I tuned in late, but I was just curious of what your personal opinion of the new kickoff rule was, and if you've seen any data on if the new rule has shown any progress in kick return yards, kick return touchdowns, and also a follow-up question, if you've been aware of the new rule changes in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, and if you like them or not, or if you think that changing them will make the CFL less unique.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Delta 9 Brian, because I would never lie to you. I have no clue what the kickoff is like in the Canadian Football League. I just watch the NFL and I just watch college football. So do you know how they do it in the Canadian Football League?
Oh, I don't know, and it's not specifically just the kickoff in Canadian football, but like they're going to move the goalpost. They're going to do a lot of rule changes in the CFL. I was just curious if you knew any about those. And I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I don't know all the details, but if it's something you've looked into or not, or if you have any cares about it.
Yes. So this is what I think about the kickoff right now. And thanks for the phone call, Bri. Hope all is well. My biggest problem with the NFL kickoff is that the NFL is selective on when they care about player safety. They made the original modification to the kickoff because they wanted you to think that they cared about player safety, how it was done all those years ago. Then they were annoyed that there weren't enough kickoff returns, so they've modified the kickoff because they wanted to play back. It's like you can't have it both ways. So I don't know what the data is, but it does seem like because of this landing zone and all this stuff and how they line everybody up, that there's been more returns, right? And we've seen special teams punting. I know that's different than a kickoff return. You've seen more special team touchdowns. You see it immediately impact the game. The other week where the ball was short of the landing zone, even this week too, and then the ball gets put out at the 40, right? It happened it was a Thursday night with Seattle and the Cardinals. So the kickoff has played a greater emphasis on the game. Here's my question, though. Why can't we just go back to the kickoff how it always was? I know people are going to say player safety. And if that's the answer, do you really think that's the answer with the NFL? I think the NFL, they know they have to make it actually look like they care about player safety for some things. But if anything ever impacted the bottom line, like if people said, hey, we would stop watching football, or sponsors would pull out, if you don't go back to the old kickoff rule, they would go back to the old kickoff rule. But there are moments where they try to distract you to make you actually think they care about the kickoff and player safety. So in this case, I would just like to go back to how they do kickoffs like they always done it. Or like use it the way that they do kickoffs in college. No one bitches about college kickoffs. No one does. So those are my thoughts on the kickoff. All righty. We'll take a time out. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, we'll get to the news brief. We will hear from Robert Saleh and Liam Cohen. We will get to the way that Brian Callahan handles the press. And also later on the show at some point, we will get to the A.J. Brown social media antics. So we'll do a ton of NFL and college football when we come on back in a news brief. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. A Monday night doubleheader concludes Week 4. Justin Fields returns, trying to lift the winless Jets there in Miami, where they haven't won since 2020, and will face a defense that has allowed the most points through the first 3 weeks. The Broncos host the Bengals. Denver has dropped its last 2 on last-second field goals in both, but for Sean Payton and company, tonight represents an opportunity to prove just how good they are and in the national spotlight.
We talked about playing at home, obviously, and then, playing a national TV game. That's important. So I think it's something that, these players understand, generationally. But we'll have it's important we start fast. We'll have a good crowd behind us, and we should take advantage of that.
The Giants have lost receiver Malik Neighbors for the season to a torn ACL, while Brock Purdy's toe is experiencing soreness once again. The San Francisco Giants fired manager Bob Melvin after 2 seasons, and Rocco Baldelli and the Twins part way after 7 seasons. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
You got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, Broncos. And this portion of the show is sponsored by Square. More than 4 million neighborhood businesses run on Square. To learn more, go to square.com or just stop by your favorite local business. See you in the neighborhood, Square. The Bengals take on the Broncos tonight at Mile High. Second-year quarterback Bo Nix has 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions for 1-2 Denver. Meanwhile, Cincinnati is 2-1, but Jake Browning has 5 interceptions in just 2 games. Last night, what a game we had between the Cowboys and the Packers, and it ended in a tie. So Jerry Jones is tying a game like kissing, not kicking. Maybe kicking, I don't know. Could be like both. Is it like kissing your sister? Go ahead.
Well, I've never kissed my sister, so how's it taste?
I wouldn't go here. Hey.
Only Jera. I've never kissed my sister. How does it taste? Oh, my God. There should never be ties in the NFL. Never, ever, 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 ever. We're not soccer, all right? You can tie in soccer. You don't tie in actual football. Let's go to Micah Parsons in the tie up against the Cowboys.
I'm not even gonna lie, I'm pissed off, I'm very disappointed just overall how we performed. I even told Jordan to the side, thank you for having our back today. That's why it's so pivotal to play complementary football, because today Jordan played like the player he was, and we let him down. We didn't live up to the expectations on defense.
Micah Parsons is a heck of a player, but he doesn't really show up in the big games. And even though this is week 4, it's a big game when you're going back to Dallas. And he didn't really do anything in the game until late in the game, when he did prevent Dak Prescott from getting in the end zone. So you could argue he saved the game, but still, you needed overtime up against an inferior football team to finally be able to make a play. All right, Bears and Raiders. The Bears did come on back. They beat the Raiders yesterday. They survived the initial avalanche by one Ashton Genty. But coming out of halftime, CBS's Sports Edie Kingobwala was on the sideline interviewing Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson, good old Benny boy, he was not happy with the questions.
Your offense has struggled to take advantage of those takeaways.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you tell them to get things going?
That it wasn't our brand of football. We're capable of a lot more, and so we're hitting the reset button here at halftime, and we're going to come back and establish our identity here in the second half.
So you need to change what you're doing.
I don't know. You think so? We're going to do just fine.
Thanks,
All right, Ben Johnson, all business. The little intimidation,
How do you really feel?
menacing stare.
I hate those interviews during the game. With that being said, what a douche Ben Johnson is. Seriously. You talked about how you're not going to change things. So all Aditi did was, do you feel like you need to change things? And he just wanted no part of that. Because if something isn't going right for Boy Wonder, he throws a temper tantrum. They eventually won the game, so congratulations to them. And Bears fans just care about it. They keep on winning. They're 2-2. But there's just something about this guy that I just don't like. Brian Callahan. At least Ben Johnson's winning, so you could tolerate it. You're losing. You haven't got a victory on the season. You're going up against another winless team, and you got blown out. Brian Callahan not happy with the reporter after the game.
Do you think this is a resilient and relentless football team?
I know what you're doing there, Paul. I know what you're doing. And yeah, I'm not going to answer that right now.
Well, I mean, those are the themes that you've tried to
Yeah.
You're 20-some games in.
Yeah.
Stuck.
I'm just compose myself here before I say something I regret. But yes, I think this team is resilient. I think it is relentless. We haven't played good enough football, and I think those are two very distinct, different things. We have to execute at a better level. We have to coach better. That's really all I can say.
Now, you know the coach can't sit there and say, or he won't say, yeah, we're not a resilient football team. So is that what Paul Kaharski is doing there? Oh, it's a gotcha kind of moment? Your team sucks. And if you don't believe me, do we have the cut from the quarterback, Cam Ward, where he was talking after the game? I don't know if we have it or not, do we? The Cam Ward cut? Yeah? Let's just play that, because let's get Cam Ward's true thoughts on the state of this football team.
I mean, if we keeping the buck right now, we ass. So we 0-4. We have, this point, we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games, and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in, especially myself, on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams, to all three faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet, but it got to show up next week.
So there you go. That's my quarterback. That's a guy that's honest. That's a guy that's looking actually to change instead of, Paul, I know what you're trying to do, and asking me if the team is resilient. Oh, my God. When you're 0-4 and you stink, you can't be condescending with the media, especially when you're an unproven coach. That is the easiest way to get your bag sent packing and no one supports you towards the end of the season. So earlier in the week, Robert Saleh is a defensive coordinator of the Niners. Liam Cohen's the head coach of the Jaguars. And Robert Saleh's basically like, oh, I give them credit because they do a legal way about finding a way to get your signs pretty much. So after the game, Liam Cohen kind of approached Robert Saleh and was basically like, keep my name out of your effing mouth, is pretty much what he said. Here is Kyle Shanahan on the kerfuffle, the little brouhaha between Saleh and Cohen.
After the game, Liam and Saleh were exchanging words. Are you surprised that, I assume over sign stealing, are you surprised that Cohen maybe wasn't thrilled about that?
No, try to clear it up, but I didn't see what happened, so I'm not sure. Don't think you should be that sensitive about it, but it is what it is. Not too worried about it.
Well, let's hear from Liam Cohen on his interaction with one Robert Saleh.
You and Saleh at the end of the
it was not a big deal. You know, just keep that between us.
One more on that one.
No, I'm going to keep that between us.
So you didn't
No, just going to keep that between us right now. That's it.
So you know what, Coach? You're trying to not create a distraction, but when you approach the coach, when everyone is watching, what else do you think is going to happen? But less there in that spot is better. You won the game. Maybe you just leave and you don't have to go after Robert Saleh. That would be my advice. Let's go to Dan Lanning on his quarterback and Dante Moore, who was awesome up against Penn State.
I think we got the best quarterback in college football, right? I mean, anybody watches that game, I don't know. Maybe I don't see everybody else, but that guy's composure, his poise. I mean, even the big play at the end there on the first overtime, you know, we're about to throw a screen into the boundary. He has the wherewithal to not throw it in the boundary, turn around and get it thrown back to the field and get a 4th and 1. I don't know. You guys will have to tell me. I thought that was going to be targeting. Looked like it from the field, but we ended up, you know, converting to 4th and 1.
I am a Heisman voter. If the Heisman were given out today, which it's not, I would have Dante Moore as number 1. All righty. In honor of Britney Spears. Oops, James did it again. Oh, we should have Hickey kind of sad sing that on Wednesday. Here is James Franklin on another loss, another one, to a ranked team.
After everything that's happened versus ranked teams, how do you personally maintain your belief?
Pray.
Yeah, you know, again, I kind of look at the entire picture. I
I get that narrative, and it's really not a narrative. It's factual. It's the facts. I get it,
Do you?
But I try to look at the entire picture and what we've been able to do here. But at the end of the day, we got to find a way to win those games.
You don't?
I totally get it, and I take ownership, and I take responsibility. At the end of the day, I wanted that for those kids in that locker room. I wanted that for those kids in that locker room, how hard they work, how much they sacrifice, and we had our opportunities. But, yeah, I take responsibility.
And you blew it because your quarterback threw a terrible interception, down 6 in overtime. James Franklin on that interception.
Drew's been as good as any quarterback in the country when it comes
stop.
to touchdown-interception ratio
Stop.
over his time.
You played
but
3
obviously,
cupcakes.
that was a critical one. But early on, we were not able to get into a rhythm for all the reasons I just mentioned, and now we're in third and long after third and long after third and long.
Let's get to Lane Kiffin. Actually, let's go Brian Kelly in this Ole Miss LSU game. As Ole Miss got the victory, LSU's offense was anemic once again. Brian Kelly points the finger for the offensive struggles.
Garrett Nussmeier's got to play better. Every player on offense has got to play better. And then we have to be more consistent on defense. I mean, we there's not one guy that you will put out, Koki, and go, well, that was the reason why we lost. There's many players that have to play their best when their best is needed. This is not a Garrett Nussmeier problem. This is an entire football team of guys doing their job at a higher level.
Did he say, I got to be better there? Did he ever point the finger at himself? Saying it's a problem for everybody. Well, you're in charge of the damn football team. Let's go to Mike Elko. Remember when Brian Kelly flipped out a reporter for questioning about the offense after a win up against Florida, where Mike Elko was angry with the media after getting questions about his offense and their struggles after another victory?
Does anybody want to ask a question about, like, us being 4-0 for the first time since 2016? Or how did the defense bounce back? Or how about you held them to 176 yards on offense and you had 5 sacks and they were 0 for 12 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth down and you got the return game going again? Like, I don't mean to sound like someone else, but my gosh, will you guys stop being so dreadful and gloomy? Well, we're only halfway through this. Yeah. Next one.
That was awesome. 42-24, 44-22, 41-40, their first 3 victories. They win 16-10 up against Auburn. And I don't know how serious that was. I do feel like it was a little tongue-in-cheek, but it was also marinated with some seriousness as well. But I kind of like that fire from Mike Elko. And Mike Elko's squad will go up against Mississippi State this weekend. Then they have Florida. And then you will get Mike Elko in a few weeks from now on October 25th. You have Arkansas sandwich in between, with Sam Pittman getting fired and Petrino coming on back to coach the team. But you will get Brian Kelly with the Tiger family up against A&M with Mike Elko. That cut will definitely resurface. We'll take a break. It is a Monday. When we come on back, Stu's got some questions for me. Hopefully, I will have some answers for him. We'll do some onsides, offsides when we come on back in a few minutes right here on the Infinity Sports Network. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. It is a Monday, so each and every Monday and Friday we do a little onside, offside. Stu's got some questions for me. We'll see if I'll have some answers for him, and we get to that in 3, 2, and 1.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, Stu, what do we got cooking today?
Oh, right after an offensive explosion last week, the Bears struggled for most of the game against my Raiders before a late touchdown gave them the win. Caleb Williams had just 150 yards passing in the first 3 quarters with a touchdown and a pick before leading 2 scoring drives in the fourth to pull out the win. Onside, offside, you're more impressed by Caleb's performance in this game than the 4-touchdown game he had last week.
Stu, help me out here. True or false? The Raiders have a good defense.
I would say that's false.
True or false? The Cowboys have a good defense.
I would also say that's false.
I would agree. So, I look at the stat lines here. Back-to-back wins. Against the Cowboys, Caleb Williams was 19-28 for 298 yards, completed 67.9% of his passes with 4 passing touchdowns. Against the Raiders, where they won the game on a blocked field goal, he was 22 of 37 for 212 yards, a touchdown and a pick, while completing 59.5% of his passes. Sure, he showed some adversity, he showed some toughness, he showed some resiliency, but I was more impressed with the performance last week than the one this week. So you're more impressed by Caleb's perseverance in this game than the 4-touchdown game last week? It's nice to overcome a little bit of adversity, but it wasn't as if you were going up against this dominant team, so I like the cleaner game better, so I go offside.
Offside!
The Cowboys and Packers game lived up to the hype as Micah returned to Dallas for the first time since the trade. While the game ended in a disappointing 40-40 tie.
You don't have a sister, Stu, right?
I don't know.
Okay. You never kiss your sister if you... Would
No.
you kiss your sister if you had a sister?
No. I would not know.
Would you wonder how it would taste?
I know someone who would want to know, yeah.
That Jerry Jones cut is really something. Can you just do me a favor? Can you just play the Jerry Jones cut one more time? I know we played this down for the 3rd time during the show, but how this was the question and then how this was the answer, it is just classic Jerry Jones.
Well, I've never kissed my sister, so how's it taste?
I wouldn't know you.
Hey. I'll tell you, covering the Cowboys, if you are a beat reporter, if you're on the daily beat, it's got to be the most entertaining thing. Who would have thought a tie where it was a good night for the Cowboys would turn into, hey, Jerry, is getting a tie in football like kissing your sister? You know, I've never kissed my sister. How does it taste? Oh, my God. That's something from Jerry. Jerry was feeling himself last night, though. Wonder how many McDonald's sandwiches he had afterwards. That was like a Super Bowl for the Cowboys, pretty much, tying that game. All righty, get back to the questions, Stu. Sorry.
Well, Love and Dak in that game, they combined for nearly 700 yards with 6 touchdowns and no picks, while Micah had just 1 sack, although it did come at a crucial time in overtime. Onsides, offsides, this game was a pivotal moment for the Cowboys to turn their season around.
I'm going to say offside. I just don't know what it's going to catapult into. They tied it. They didn't win it. So you're 1-2-1. You play the Jets next week. Can they beat the Jets? Yes. Can they beat the Panthers? Like, it's not crazy to say that this team is going to be 3-2-1 through 6 weeks of the season. But you know what? Looking at the way that the schedule is, they got to take advantage from week 5 through week 11. Week 5 to week 11, they play the Jets, they play the Panthers, they play the Commanders, they play the Broncos, they play the Cardinals, and they play the Raiders. That's 6 games right there. If they go 4-2, and they're sitting there at what would be 5, hold on, they go 4-2, so they'd be 5, 4, and 1. That makes it interesting before the schedule picks back up in intensity with the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants. I don't think that this game is really going to do much because that defense still has a lot of issues. Offensively for the Packers, I'll tell you. I know that they put up a lot of yards last night and a lot of points. Jordan Love, though, and Matt LaFleur with the game on the line did not do a good enough job. But you asked me about the Cowboys. This game was a pivotal moment for the Cowboys to turn their season around. They still tied at the end of the day. So do I now believe the Cowboys are going to be that much better than what people thought before the season? I do not. So I'll go offsides there.
Offside. The Ravens fell to 1-3 after their blowout loss to the Chiefs. But more concerning was the loss of Lamar Jackson to a hamstring injury. There's no word yet on how much, if any, time Lamar will miss. as the Ravens drop to 12th place in the AFC. Onside, offsides, the Ravens season is over even if Lamar doesn't miss any time.
I can't say it's over yet. They have a bye week coming up in 3 weeks. You got to split the next 2. At worst case scenario, Houston and the Rams, you got to split there. If you lose both, then it's a different tune. But if you go into the bye week at 2-4, I can live with it because coming out of the bye, you have Chicago and you got Miami. So you could very easily then even up your schedule and your record on the season. So I'm not going to say that the Ravens season is over, even if Lamar doesn't miss time. They could still make the postseason. But the road did get trickier after yesterday as they were a no-show up against the Chiefs. Matabuke now out for the season with a neck injury. Roquan Smith going to miss some time, and there's a lot of ambiguity now with this hamstring where we thought it wasn't serious. John Harbaugh today said that Lamar, there was no way he could get back into the game, so we don't know exactly what is going to happen from now until Sunday when the Ravens next take the field at home up against the Houston Texans. So the Ravens season is over even if Lamar doesn't miss time. I'm going to say offside still for now.
Offsides.
After that embarrassing performance in last week's shutout loss to the Panthers, Michael Penix Jr. rebounded nicely for Atlanta yesterday. The former 8th overall pick completed 77% of his passes for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, though he did have 1 pick in a key 34-27 win over the Commanders. Onsides, offsides, Penix is closer to the quarterback we saw yesterday than the one we saw 2 weeks ago.
I don't know, but he's not as bad as he was 2 weeks ago. But do I walk away when you're playing a team that had all these injuries? They didn't have Jaden Daniels. They didn't have Terry McLaurin. Other than on the defense of the Commanders. Am I supposed to be all that jacked up about the Falcons being 2-2 and then beating the Commanders who were the walking wounded? And let's be, that team goes as Bijan Robinson goes. 17 carries yesterday, 75 yards and a touchdown. Also had 4 receptions for 106 yards. So Penix is closer to the QB that we saw yesterday than the one that we saw 2 weeks ago. How do you view the one that we saw yesterday? That's the question. You wouldn't say that was a great quarterback. Would you say that was just a fine quarterback yesterday, right?
Yeah, good. Good quarterback yesterday.
I don't think he's all that good in the NFL. I don't. I think he's a guy where he's going to be 16th or 17th best quarterback in the league. So I guess of that technicality, I don't think yesterday he was all that great. I don't think he was all that bad as he was 2 weeks ago. But if you ask me, what do I think we'll see more of? I think it's more of the bad than the good. So Penix is closer to the QB that we saw yesterday than the one that we saw 2 weeks ago. I'm going offside.
Offside.
Jackson Dart got the start for the Giants and looked sharp, leading Big Blue on an impressive touchdown drive in his first possession, and then making key plays down the stretch to hold the lead despite losing wide receiver Malik Neighbors to a season-ending knee injury. Dart finished with 111 yards passing with a touchdown, adding 54 yards and another score on the ground. Onside, offsides, Dart exceeded expectations in his first start.
Isn't it funny? There's only a national talk show host that got told he was an idiot and a moron and a dope for the last 3 weeks, suggesting that they should play Jackson Dart because Russell Wilson was washed. Only if there was someone out there. Oh, yeah, that was me. Not that I think, yeah, go ahead.
I thought it was Mark Schlereth who said that.
He agreed with me. And Mark Schlereth was definitely someone that took a bunch of abuse for that. And there were some Giant fans that I may or may not went back into my mentions and may or may not have sparred with them, and they still wouldn't admit defeat. I'm just saying. I may or may not have done that yesterday. Samter is stirring the pot right now. I wasn't stirring the pot. I was directly going back at people. Because and this was even before the win. I didn't think they were going to win the game yesterday. I thought it'd be close. But my whole point was, because I saw with my football team, the Patriots, it was so pointless last year when they played Jacoby Brissett. If you have an Alex Smith there, you could sit Mahomes for an entire year. Jacoby Brissett and then this version of Russell Wilson, they weren't going to keep people off for all that long. And the kid was ready. So that's why it doesn't make sense. Sure, had a little bit of an injury yesterday. The Giants line isn't the best. Now Neighbors out for the season. It's so unfortunate. So even when you win, you lose. But Jackson Dart brought some life to this team, brought a little swagger to this team, and he had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, and he beat the Chargers, who on paper have one of the best defenses in the league. So I thought Dart would be fine. I didn't think they were going to win the game. So yeah, he exceeded my expectations in his first start. I'm going on sides. Also, by the way, Thoughts and prayers to Giants owner John Mara. It was announced today that he's been diagnosed with cancer. So he's battling through that, and we wish him nothing but the best. So our thoughts and prayers with the Mara family and all of the New York Giant football family, and obviously their fans as well, as we're thinking about the owner who is now battling a cancer diagnosis. Next one, Stu.
Brian Kelly and LSU lost their first game of the season, falling 24-19 to Ole Miss on Saturday. Early Heisman favorite Garrett Nussmeier continued to struggle and has thrown just one touchdown in each of the 3 games against FBS opponents, though he did have 3 touchdowns against FCS Southeast Louisiana. Onto offsides, Nussmeier is not a national champion caliber quarterback.
Isn't it funny? There's just some teams when, it kind of, I'm using the Steelers a lot today. When the Steelers had Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben, and Antonio Brown, they couldn't stop a nosebleed on defense. Right? Then Big Ben retires, Antonio Brown became crazy, and Le'Veon Bell left the team. And then the offense stunk, and the defense became good. So for the last 3 years, you had Jaden Daniels, and then last year the offense was good with Nussmeier, but their defense couldn't stop anybody. Now the defense is solid at LSU, and their offense can't do jack. So it's always an uneven seesaw. It would be like if you put Samter on one side of the seesaw and then me on the other side of the seesaw. And then Samter would be like that little piggy in the commercial where it goes, wee! Right when I sit down on the seesaw. You would just go right up into the air, wee! That would be Samter. You need someone that is more proportionally sized. That's what you need. You need like, I'm trying to think. Is it easier to probably find someone more proportionally sized as Samter or me? That's a tough question. I think probably me, right?
I'm staying out of this one.
Who could I use here? That person's probably too big.
Me and Bilotti?
No. But we could use Pete. Pete and me.
Nah.
Or maybe Pat Boyle.
Pat Boyle.
Pat Boyle and me. Like, I would still flex for the cameras a little bit and show my masculinity, right? I would still dominate the seesaw a little bit. But it would be even. It'd be in range. It wouldn't be one person gets on, and then the other guy on the other side just goes up in the air, and you hear Samter like that pig in that commercial once again. Wee, wee. Hey, Psych Manter. If you're, is that what it is? Is it a Geico commercial? That wasn't. What happened to the cavemen? Now we got pigs.
They've got a gecko. They've got cavemen, and they got the pig.
Hey, Psych Manter, if you're listening. Can you Photoshop me Samter with the pig? And maybe get the noises to just go, wee, wee. It'd be entertaining. You asked me a question here, Stu. Oh, Nussmeier. Talking about the imbalance here. Yeah, he's not a national championship caliber quarterback. There's a lot of bad quarterback play this year in college football. A lot of guys that we were told were supposed to be all that, and they're really not. So Nussmeier is not a national championship caliber quarterback on sides.
We saw a bunch of big upsets with number 3 Penn State, number 4 LSU, number 5 Georgia, and number 8 Florida State all going down this weekend. The Seminoles lost 46-38 in double overtime to previously unranked Virginia and now sport a resume with a win over Alabama, a win over a Group of 5 school, and a win over an FCS school with, of course, that loss to Virginia. On to offsides, Florida State was a pretender all along.
Here's why I struggle with this. Did anyone ever say they were really a national championship contender? People said they're going to bounce back. People said they're a strong football team. I still look at their schedule. They play Miami. That's going to be tough. Then after that, they play Pitt, Stanford, Wake Forest, Clemson, Virginia Tech, NC State, and Florida. They could still go on out there and let's say at the end of the season only have 3 losses. Like anything more than 3 would be a disaster at this stage. But if they go have 3 losses this year, are we killing them? So if they end up going 9-3, are people going to be eviscerating Florida State? I don't think so. And they could still be in contention to make the college football playoff. Because if you're just at 2 losses or fewer, you got a chance. So I'm not ready to go there yet. That Florida State was a pretender all along, but definitely disappointing up against Virginia, especially when you got Miami this week and maybe it was a look-ahead spot. So I'm going to go offside there.
Offsides.
After an ugly blowout loss to my Irish, Arkansas fired head coach Sam Pittman, who held the position since 2020 and amassed a record of 32-34. Former Razorbacks coach Bobby Petrino took over as the interim and has already made wholesale changes on the staff, including firing 3 defensive coaches.
Will he wear a neck brace to his first press conference?
Onsides, offsides, Arkansas should keep Petrino as their full-time head coach.
No. He's 64. Now, it doesn't mean you can't be 64 and coach in college football, but he's an established coach. I think you need someone that's more with it with the current times of name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. Now, I did see someone, I forget who, they suggested maybe you pay him at a significant discount because he's probably not going to be a head coach anywhere else at a power school. And then you could use that money in different areas that you would save on the coach. But I don't want to cut corners that way. They need a better coach. So Petrino, it's fun, it's nostalgic, but should he be their full-time head coach? Absolutely not. Offside.
Offside.
The United States made an incredible comeback on Sunday at the Ryder Cup, but couldn't overcome their historic deficit, falling to Europe 15-13. While all eyes were on Rory versus the crowd or the controversial injury rule, Keegan Bradley pointed to a mistake that he made for the loss.
We tried to set the course up to help our team. Obviously, it wasn't the right decision. I think anytime you're the leader of a team or you're the captain or the coach or whatever, we talked about this last night, you have to take, you're going to get the accolades and you need to take the blame for when things don't go well. And I definitely made a mistake on the course setup.
Onsides, offsides, Bradley should have put himself on the team.
So this was a big thing because all these golf purists told me you can't be a Ryder Cup captain and then also play. It's very difficult to do. Now, I know they staged a comeback yesterday and they came up short. But I had a conversation with my dad before the comeback. And I go, remember all those dopes that were like, oh, he can't play and be a captain? Why not? It's really that much. So the question is, Keegan Bradley should have put himself on the team and actually played instead of just being a captain that wasn't playing? Absolutely. Onsides.
All right, Zach, last one. Sorry, but your Mets had an all-time collapse, missing the playoffs despite having baseball's best record in mid-June, along with the second-highest payroll. After the loss, high-priced star Juan Soto pushed back against the idea that they need to make major changes this offseason.
I mean, we have everything we need. I say we just got to win games. I think that's the only thing we got to change. Win games.
All right, onsides, offsides, the Mets need to make major changes to their roster next year.
A few things. I'm not out on David Stearns, but this isn't Milwaukee. And I know Milwaukee, right, is better than the Mets this year, the team that he used to run. I'm fully cognizant of that. But this isn't Milwaukee. So this idea that Edwin Diaz won't be back and Pete Alonso won't be back, nonsense. And this is what's so infuriating with what happened with the Mets. Edwin Diaz was great this year. Pete Alonso was really damn good. Juan Soto, slow start, but was phenomenal at the end of the season. Francisco Lindor had a really good season. So you had your big players, Pete, Soto, Lindor, Edwin Diaz have really good seasons. So why didn't the Mets make the playoffs? Well, they cut corners in the starting rotation. And the rest of the lineup wasn't good enough because you trusted too many youngsters. So I think they should bring Diaz back. I think they should bring Pete Alonso back, long-term extensions, but you need an established starting pitcher. I know Tong and McClain and Sproat, right? They're encouraging, especially McClain. But you can't just put all your eggs in the basket of youngsters like you did this year with Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, and Acuna. Can't do that. And this is a major year for them. I still believe in Steve Cohen, but the manager and the general manager must be better next year. And ultimately, the Mets had it last year down the stretch. They couldn't win a game after the 8th inning this year. And they didn't win a game, I think it was like trailing after the 8th. They didn't win one game. They didn't come back once. Which is crazy. Crazy. So I look at the Mets, they have to make changes. And they needed why didn't they trade for Garrett Crochet? That was something I said in the moment. They need an established starting pitcher, and they need more depth in this lineup. To me, those are major changes, so I would go onsides. But I will say this. This is the worst collapse I've seen from the Mets. I lived through 2007. That took the cake. It was a crappy piece of cake. They were up 7 with 17 to play. At least there, right, you were driving a Lamborghini, you had a wonderful car, and you got hit by an 18-wheeler and you died right away. Like, terrible, unfortunate, shocking. You died on impact, you didn't suffer. This, you got diagnosed with an illness. You were told you were going to live for 3 months. You lived for 10 years. Some people say that's great, but you were a vegetable and you had zero quality of life. I'd rather just go right away than have all the pain and suffering. I'd rather not suffer than compared to suffer. And also, there's 3 damn wild card spots. And you couldn't make one. And I knew it yesterday. I knew it. I told my buddy Alex we bought a 20-game plan this year. And before the start of the season, we joked, wouldn't it be so Mets? Where we buy this 20-game package, you get the postseason plan too, and they don't make the postseason. My deposit's going to credit for next year. But I called him yesterday, and I said, you know it and I know it. We know this team. The Reds will lose. The Mets will lose. And that's what bleeping happened. Oh, yeah. And any Met fan that goes, oh, I'm happy the season's over. Stop. I still rather make the postseason than not make the postseason. And you two rats on the other side, I never want to hear that you guys don't care about the Mets. You being Yankee fans who always sit there and go, oh, we don't care about the Mets. We don't care about the Mets. I've never seen you two clowns, you two rats, you two buffoons smile more today than any other day. I've never seen it. Stu, I think you're a sane individual, so maybe you don't hate the Mets as much. I know Samter, he cared about baseball 5 days this year. 5 days. And it's when the Yankees beat the Mets in the first part of the Subway Series. You didn't hear him in the second time. Those are 3. And then, the last 2 games of the Mets season. Oh, yeah. Oh, let me tell you. I don't usually root against the Yankees. I don't. When I was younger, I did. But Will's great. I love Will around here. He comes up to me. He goes, getting ready for the Yankees postseason run. Because Will knows I'm a Met fan. And it was really obnoxious of Will today. And I looked at him and I said, Will, go Red Sox. And he goes, you want to bet another candy bar on that? And I said, no. And he goes, you're a coward. Will called me a coward.
Yes, Will, my man.
Called me a coward.
Willie P. I love it.
And you know what? For the first time in my life, I was speechless. And I just walked away. Ugh. And I love Keith McPherson, right?
Meet the Mets.
But Keith telling me that he doesn't care about the Mets. Keith, does he get paid by the Met tweet now? The last 48 hours. Oh, he had all those in the drafts. But the Yankee fan that tells me they don't care about the Mets. Like, I know EJ was wrong with his opinion today that the Mets are the Yankees' biggest rival. He's wrong on that. It's still the Red Sox. In my lifetime, right, the 31-year-old. It's the Red Sox are 1, the Astros are 2, and then the Mets are 3. And then EJ goes, well, the Mets, their biggest rival. No, it's not. In my lifetime, you could swap Braves, Phillies, whichever one won 2, and then it's the Yankees 3. The Yankee fan, for the most part, hates the Met fan. The Met fan hates the Yankee fan. Can't we just acknowledge that? When I was a kid, I hated the Yankees. The last 10 years, because I'm a mature individual sometimes, I had no issue with the Yankees. But now with the way that the Yankee fan is a phony fraud, right? They pretend like they don't care about the Mets. I had more Yankee fans text me yesterday than my friends who live in Philadelphia. But my, oh my, what a disgusting season. And you know what? I'm not going to yell anymore at the Yankee fan or the Phillies fan or even the Braves fan, even though the Braves were a disaster this year, because the Mets did it to themselves. I'm still glad we have Juan Soto. I still, for some reason, believe in Steve Cohen. But this idea that, oh my goodness gracious, the Yankee fan doesn't care about that, stop it. Just stop it. But this was despicable. This was disgusting. This was repulsive. And what they did for the last 3-4 months, oh my goodness gracious. I still can't believe it. But I probably should be able to believe it because I'm a Met fan and this is what happens. You know what? Whenever I have a kid, I don't know if I'm going to make him a Met fan. I really don't. It builds character. I wouldn't want to see them root for the Yankees. Maybe at that point people just won't care about baseball, so maybe it won't even matter anyway. But only the Mets. Only the Mets.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, so Kawhi Leonard did speak today at Clippers Media Day. We'll play you probably the audio tomorrow. But just real quickly, I just saw a excerpt from it as it was just released. He was asked about this Pablo Torre report about the no-show job and the circumventing of the salary cap with that plant company or tree company, whatever it was. Stu and Santa, just do me a little favor here. When he was asked about it, how do you think he responded to it? What do you think his response sounded like, if you had to take a guess?
I'm not going to discuss this.
Okay, it's a fair guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably, sidestepped whatever the question was.
I'm not here to deal with conspiracies and clickbait journalism. Oh, boy. You are poking the bear that is Pablo Torre now. I'm just saying. You're saying he's clickbait, and he's also a conspiracy theorist, pretty much. This is going to get ugly. As Adam Silver just basically sits on his hands with no spine, and spineless Silver basically does not. This is a big deal now. It is a big deal now. We'll see what happens. Also, A.J. Brown, real quickly. We go from one person who's an enigma to another person, and that's A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown, it's very puzzling. I'll never forget when I was at that playoff game and he was reading the book on the sideline. That was last year. I could not believe that in January. And then he won the Super Bowl. And remember that Instagram post that he had a few days afterwards? Right? You think everything will get fulfilled after winning a Super Bowl, and then it's not. So I do have some, knowing the past of AJ, I do have some sympathy and empathy for AJ Brown. With that being said, people are going to freak out over what he did yesterday. Now, it is a Bible verse, right? I'm not going to tell you I'm an expert in that department. But it is a Bible message. And the message was, if you're not welcome, not listened to, quietly withdraw, don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way. I think if it was any other player in the NFL, right, or 98% of the players in the NFL, we would sit there and we would say, oh, that's him wanting out, right? Tyreek Hill, you would say it. If it was Stephon Diggs, you would say it that way. You know, whoever the wide receiver was, if they put that out there, you'd be like, yeah. But I think with A.J. Brown, with after the book thing, and then also other times this has been speculated, I don't think he's going anywhere. I just think this is who A.J. Brown is. Where when he's not getting the ball, he's going to post something that people are now going to say, oh, does this mean he's going to force a trade? But the reality is, even if he wanted to get traded, I don't think the Eagles could right now. How do you say it? Is it Spot Rack or Spotrack? Whatever you call it.
Spotrack.
You call it Spotrack? Do you say Spotrack too?
Spotrack, yeah.
Yeah. His dead cap right now is $89.9 million for this season. Next season, $49.5 million. It does not get manageable until 2027 when it's 9.91. So is there something there? Maybe. Do I think A.J. Brown's going to get traded by the deadline? Absolutely not. And by the way, we'll get to an update in just a second. Netflix has announced that there is a new documentary, I guess, coming out. New episode coming out. New series coming out on October 21st. Netflix has dropped the trailer for Who Killed the Montreal Expos. That's going to be good. Or I hope that's going to be good. Netflix does a great job with those pieces. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do Studs and Duds next. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And this report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. One NFL team should reach the win column tonight. The 0-3 Jets go for their first win in Miami against the Dolphins, who are also 0-3. Justin Fields returns after missing last week with a concussion, looking to lift his team to its first win.
We both have yet to get a win this season, so it's a big game for both of us. Monday night, not much of a bigger stage either. So, I know we're going in there to, win by any means, and they're probably doing the same thing. So, like I said, we're excited, we're prepared, and I'm ready to go.
The Broncos and Bengals, both coming off losses, meet in the second Monday night game. Denver's won 6 in a row at home, while Jake Browning tries to get the Bengals turned around. He struggled filling in for the injured Joe Burrow. throwing 5 interceptions in 7 quarters. Brock Purdy experiencing soreness in his injured toe, putting his status for next week in doubt, while Lamar Jackson is nursing a hamstring strain. Teammate Marlon Humphrey expected to miss some time with a calf injury. Giants receiver Malik Neighbors done for the season with a torn ACL. 2 baseball managers fired today. Bob Melvin out after 2 seasons in San Francisco. Rocco Baldelli not returning after 7 seasons in Minnesota. I'm Rich Acker.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Our dear friend Psych Mampster at Moist Mike ISN on Twitter says, at Zach Gelb, is there any more overrated team in sports than Penn State football? Ranked highly every year, exposed as frauds every year. Are voters hitting Stuart Kovacs' stash? Hashtag Ask the Pros. That's a mouthful. You can submit a question by tweeting at INSSportsNet or at Zach Gelb using hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low price and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. In college football, yeah. Absolutely. Have they only are 7th now in the AP poll? Is a joke, too. It's like you play 3 cupcakes and you lose to Oregon. And I know Oregon's great, but come on. They never win a big game. They are one of the meaningless teams in college football because they win all these meaningless games, 9-10 wins in any big game. Last year, Notre Dame, Aller loses. This year, Oregon, come back, overtime, have a chance to go win it. You throw an interception. Unacceptable. Let's get to some studs and duds, or I'm sure we'll talk about Penn State some more.
On the Zach Gelb Show, we're looking for studs.
Back to pass. Bosa picked up. Deep shot. Jefferson. Yes!
But sometimes we have to tolerate the duds.
Mistake. Lamar takes the snap. Rolls to the right. Throws. Complete. No! He dropped it. Mark Andrews hit him in the hands.
Now for the moment you've all been waiting for.
And here we go.
It's time for Studs and Duds.
Vanderbilt has a huge game this weekend up against Alabama. Vanderbilt had beat Alabama last year. They're 5-0 this year. They just crushed Utah State over the weekend, 55-35. How about Diego Pavia? Was 26-34 for 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, and also led the team in rushing. 9 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown, so 6 total touchdowns from Diego Pavia. Let's hear one of those scores.
Brought back for Pavia. He looks that way. He throws for Sherrill. It's a one-on-one matchup. Oh, goodness! Junior Sherrill, what a catch! At the pylon, what a day! Half north-south an afternoon from 18 for Sherrill. Oh, the Nashville kid, he's at it again!
Stud.
All right, I'm going to go with Notre Dame, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and C.J. Carr against Arkansas, leading them to a 56-13 victory. He had 354 yards on 22 of 30 for 4 touchdowns, including this one to Jadarian Price.
Carr along the near hash, takes the snap, swings it out to Price, who catches at the 40, now turns upfield inside the 30, head down at the 25, breaks the tackle, inside the 20, he's going to do it, inside the 10, angling to the near side, he's in! Another touchdown with 7 seconds left in the half. It's the 6th touchdown for Notre Dame. Jadarian Price hits pay dirt, and the route is on in Arkansas.
Stud.
All right, well, I'm going to go with my guy, Mr. Sam Levitt. 3 straight wins for ASU, including Baylor and TCU. They were kind of down for most of the game. He looked great, 291 yards, 70% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, no picks, forks out, baby. And then this incredible 4th down touchdown to my guy, Jordan Tyson, to tie the game up late before they went ahead and won it.
4th and goal from the 5-yard line. Levitt gets the snap,
Levitt looks. Levitt throws for the end zone. Caught for a touchdown. Caught by Jordan Tyson at the back of the end zone with 1:50 left to go in regulation.
Stud. All right, let's go to the NFL world. We'll get to the studs. The Patriots are down 6-0. This sparked 42 unanswered points by the Pats. It was an 87-yard punt return for a touchdown by Marcus Jones. Also later in the game, he had a 61-yard punt return. He got stopped a little bit short by the punter, but this punt return by Marcus Jones got the things going for the Patriots on Sunday.
The Patriots come up with the stop in their territory. Wingstine snap, goes with the football down. Right-footed kick, sky high to the near side. Jones ambles over, under and out to 13, starts back to his right, escapes, and then carries back near side 20. He's got a lane to the 30, along the sideline 40, to midfield. Marcus Jones with the convoy. Throws it right to the 40, to the 30, to the 20, to the 10, to the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots!
Stud. All right, Zach, you go with a punt return for a touchdown, and I will also go with a punt return for a touchdown. This one, it was in the Jacksonville Niners game. Jacksonville with a surprise 26-21 win over the 49ers. They were up 6 in the fourth quarter when Parker Washington on the punt return did this.
There's the punt. Parker backs up, fields it at the 15-yard line. Made a man miss, 25-yard line, 30-yard line. That's a good return by Parker Washington. Still on feet, 50, 40, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Parker Washington just brought it all the way back, and the Jags have extended the lead.
Stud. You get an 87-yard punt return. You get an 87-yard punt return. You get an 87-yard punt return. 2 87-yard punt returns for touchdowns. Wow. Making the stud appearances. Samter, go ahead.
I'm not going to give you an 87-yard punt return. I am going to eventually give you a 64-yard touchdown run. I know you hate having a stud on a losing team, but I do not care. Stu's guy, Ashton freaking Genty.
My guy. I found him pretty much.
Sure, but now he's a Raider. He had 144 rushing yards in his first 3 games, 138 yesterday with a touchdown, 2 receiving touchdowns.
Take that, Ryan Clark. Shut up.
And this was kind of a shot at Chip Kelly because Chip Kelly wants him to be a bent knee.
Yes.
And Ashton Genty, he likes to stand up like Michael Myers, Halloween style in the backfield. He went back to that this game. He looked way more comfortable. He broke off this one.
Smith is under center. He moves. Trey Tucker in motion. It's a handoff off left guard to Ashton Jenney. Stutters through. And he's got the speed to the near side. Jenney to the 30. Breaks a tackle 20. Jenney. Good. Deuces goodbye. Ashton Jenney, a 64-yard touchdown.
Stud. All righty, let's get to the college football duds. Penn State, Happy Valley, whiteout crowd, nighttime game, 110,000 people down 17-3. Drew Aller playing horribly. He leads the comeback, gets him into overtime. Back and forth touchdowns in the first overtime, second overtime. Oregon scores, doesn't get the 2-point conversion. All righty, Penn State, this is your time to go win the game. Drew Aller, what say you?
Motion man comes over. Aller gonna throw. Steps back. Swings it down. It is intercepted.
We are never winning the big game.
Ducks win. Ducks win. Interception by Dylan Thieneman. That means Penn State can't answer the score, and Oregon has ended it with an interception in the second overtime. And they'll win it 30-24.
Dud. From one disappointing quarterback to another, I'm going with LSU's Garrett Nussmeier. They had a very disappointing game, and he was not very good. 21-34, 197 yards, only 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And after the game, he was asked about his health, and, well, he didn't really want to talk about it.
I'm not going to answer any questions about my health right now, currently. Right now, obviously, I'm frustrated about the loss, and just looking to get back, watch the tape, find ways to get better.
Dud.
You guys are lacking creativity. I am not going with a quarterback. I am going with a referee crew. If you were watching the Georgia Tech Wake Forest game, Wake Forest had the ball up by 3 with 1:48 to go. Georgia Tech was out of timeouts. It was 3rd and 5, setting the scene. 3rd and 5. A Georgia Tech defender clearly jumps offsides.
No doubt about that.
Way offsides. The quarterback for Wake sees it, so he just throws the ball up because it's a free play. They don't throw the flag, and because of that, Wake had to punt, and Wake ended up giving up a tying field goal and then losing in overtime. Had they gotten that first down by the penalty, they could have just kneeled the clock down because Georgia Tech was out of timeouts. The game would have been over. That cost them the game. Here's how it sounded.
Pre-snap movement. Ashford goes to the air. Down the sideline, it's incomplete. But there is no flag down, and Jake Dickert and Robbie Ashford are irate. Looked like Daquan White was very close to creeping over the line, if not over the line, but no flag, and it's 4th down, and you save 40 seconds.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. He's in the neutral zone. Yeah, he's in the neutral zone.
I mean, the foot,
he's there. He never got back.
Dud.
My NFL dud, I'm doubling up here. Adonai Mitchell. Well, he fumbled the ball out of the back of the end zone because he was celebrating too early. Then had a hold at the end of the game that negated a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. And then the Tutu Atwell game-winning touchdown for the Rams. Well, the Colts only had 10 guys on the field.
Shotgun snap for the quarterback. Looks left. Fires down the left sideline, and it is a catch. A.D. Mitchell. There he goes. Inside the 30. Down the far sideline. 10. 5. Touchdown. A.D. Mitchell. His first career touchdown in the NFL. Hold on just a moment. The officials talking to one another at the goal line.
He bobbled the ball at the end, Matt. He switched the ball in his hands right at the goal line, and it looks like he may have fumbled it before he crossed the goal line, which would give the Rams the ball on the 20-yard line.
Stafford from his own 12-yard line set up in the shotgun. Lobs the ball left side. Tutu's open. Over the shoulder catch 40. Tutu down the left sideline with a vapor trail behind him. 10-5. Touchdown LA. Too fast. Tutu Atwell. The go-ahead score with 93 seconds left.
Dud.
All right, my dud is going to be Justin Herbert after a great start to the season. It was not great yesterday with 2 interceptions, and the Chargers lost to the Giants. A disappointing game for Justin Herbert.
Dud.
My dud is going to be Cam Ward. I love the kid, but he is really struggling. Second game under 120 yards passing. He had 108 yards passing, completed 38% of his passes for no touchdowns and a pick in a shutout to the winless Texans. Dud.
Dud.
I thought his coach was actually more embarrassing afterwards. I actually feel bad for Cam Ward. At least Cam Ward's being honest. And I'm giving you a bonus stud. How about the Alabama offensive lineman, Caden Proctor? They threw the ball to him, and the big fella was running. Love that creativity by Kalen DeBoer. Stu, give me the stud sounder. Do we have it? No? All right, give me the dud sounder, because you're a dud.
Dud.
Oh, yeah, we could just, come on, Stu, give me a stud sounder.
Stud.
I kind of like Stu doing it better than the big voiceover guy. And we pay the voiceover guy. We don't pay you. Well, we pay you a little bit, but not that. Yeah.
Stud.
Who's that little piggy again? All righty, good show today. Big thanks to Johnny Fanta. Big thanks to each and every one of you. We'll get to these 2 Monday night football games and recap them tomorrow. They're supposed to be spectacular. Let me tell you, football's always great. We love football. Talk to you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We out. Bye-bye. Peace. Go Dolphins!
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.